guys, so in this video I just kind of want to talk about how to write a short story. A short story is categorized as a work of fiction comprised of several thousand words but not more than 5,000, and the best short stories tell us a tale of sight, sound, thought, and action, and helps us to understand and relate to a compelling moment. Edgar Allan Poe once said, "A short story must have a single mood, and every sentence must build towards it." So you want to make sure that every word that you use in every sentence has a purpose in a short story, as it differs from a novel in length and you only have so much space to compel your argument or whatever your lesson you'd want to teach. So I'm gonna cover the writing in general and kind of the writing process. So basically, when you're writing, you want to make sure you're in an environment where you're not going to be distracted and you're comfortable. So maybe it's the desk in your bedroom, maybe it's the kitchen table, or maybe it's outside on your porch or at your library, just wherever you feel comfortable to write. And then once you get to that point, you kind of want to think about what tool you want to use. Do your ideas come best when you are writing on pen and paper, or when you're typing, or maybe when you're speaking out loud and then you type it out later like that? You kind of want to think about which way writing comes easier, because it's not always writing, it's telling your story, and getting your initial ideas out is sometimes easier when you don't have to focus on physically writing it. So we want to be aware of our medium and kind of what we're going to do with it. And we want to be creative, so we kind of want to nurture things like our curiosity and our passion, and kind of being aware like what helps those. Does it help when we have our breakfast or our meal right before we start writing, or do we need a snack while we're doing it so we keep our energy up? Those kind of things. And then with the writing process is broken into different stages. There's brainstorming, drafting, revising, editing, publishing, and sharing. And then I would say writing is cylindrical or spherical. It's circle. So brainstorming always leads back to brainstorming. So even if you think you finished a story, you could always come back and add to it or take from it. So brainstorming is basically we want to get all of our ideas out, and brainstorming is basically when we think about our story and our characters and our setting. So this is all just thinking, this is everything in our head, and we kind of want to have a purpose that our writing is going to define. So it's something that we want to keep in mind when it comes to scope. So with a short story, we don't want it to be something too big like how to end world hunger or create world peace, but we don't want it to be as small as how to make a peanut butter sandwich or how to tie your shoes. Those are too simple. So you want to find something in the medium, kind of like, oh, maybe it's a conversation someone has over dinner that's difficult, or someone going through the process of getting their driver's license. So it's an experience that could be explained in under 5,000 words. That's so compelling. And then when you're writing your short story, you kind of want to be aware of your audience. So keeping getting your driver's license as an idea for a short story, that might be something that you would write for a teen audience or maybe a younger person audience, as they're more likely to be going through the process of driving school, the driver's test, both the physical handwritten test and then the in-car test, where you would probably see emotional conflict from their character. I know when I got my driver's test, I was emotional. So, but you kind of want to make sure that your writing and your story will fit the audience that you're writing it for. And then for your characters, you want to make them feel real and born. So you want to give them experiences. So you want them to have things that you can build on. You don't have to have like their whole life story set out, but you kind of want to know what their childhood was like that got them to the point where they're at now. So like, did they go to college? Did they get a job young? Did they run away from home? All of those things can be influencing your character before they're even introduced to the story. Those things could have all have happened before we even write about them. So those are things you want to keep in mind. And then when we're writing, we want to have a character show and not tell. So instead of a character saying, I'm angry, we would want them to say, we would want to show that Andrew by writing, his eyes narrowed and he let out a harsh breath. Andrew was mad and he was mad at me. So kind of, maybe not the last sentence, but just showing the character's emotions without telling them, because the audience and the reader will pick up on it without you having to tell them. And then we have point of view. So we have 3 to choose from: first person, second person, and third person. So first person is an external narrator. So this is an internal narrator. So I, me, mine, we, our. Second person uses words like you and your. So the reader is addressed in the second person point of view. And then third person, there's actually 2 types of third person point of view. There's third person limited, which tells the story through one of the characters' perspectives, and then third person omniscient, which tells which speaks through an all-speaking eye, all-seeing eye, and so the narrator would use words like he, his, hers, they, them, theirs. And when you're writing your story, you want to keep in mind tone, which can affect the viewpoint, which could be affected by the viewpoint you use, and tone is usually affected by the author's attitude, manner, mood, or morality. So kind of the state of mind you are when you're writing can influence what you write. So these are all things we're keeping in mind while we're brainstorming. And then we go into drafting, which is when we write all of these ideas down that we've been thinking about. So this is when we write out character descriptions and dialogue and setting descriptions. And you just want to have a beginning, middle, end in this stage. You don't need to have everything clear. You don't have to worry about fact checking, spell checking, grammar. That comes in with editing, which isn't there yet. Because after drafting, we go into revising, which is when we make sure we have everything in our story. So maybe we add dialogue, or maybe we need transition scenes. This is when we do that. And then in editing, we would fix our spelling and grammar mistakes. And after that, we get into publishing, which is when you both revise and edit. So you've gotten this to the point where you have your story down on paper and you would benefit from reading it out loud to yourself, or maybe reading it to a camera and playing it back, and you would be able to see like, oh, I accidentally put 2 A's here, so it goes he ate a banana. Or you would have, maybe you're missing connector words, or maybe there's dialogue that's choppy, or a setting that doesn't make sense for that point in the story. So this is kind of when you can read it out loud and you're just like doing final touches for your short story. And the last step is sharing. So this is when you would give your story to your friends and family and get their thoughts on it. And then once you get those thoughts and comments, you could take that and brainstorm on how you can change your story for the better or not. So that's the writing process. And so a short story, we've already kind of talked about it, how it's under 5,000 words, but it differs from a novel also in aspect of characters. In short stories, there's usually less characters, and we would focus on 1 or 2, where a novel could have an ensemble cast where there's 5 or 6 main characters. And dialogue in a short story is very important. It's a way for our characters to talk to the reader, and it helps our understanding of the character and their personalities when we're developing plot, so we can kind of get a better understanding of them quickly without having to see who they are throughout the whole story. We can kind of get an early introduction. And then viewpoint changes does not happen as often in a short story, so you won't be changing perspective from character to character every paragraph. That would be confusing for the reader and probably also for the writer as well. So you'd probably keep it within one perspective. And then pacing. So pacing is crucial in a short story because there's less words every sentence. It counts. So you want to keep the story moving forward. So you need to keep moving within your short story and maybe not describe a character's appearance for 4 pages straight. And then after that is our ending. We want to have an ending that resolves the conflict that's been going on and shows how the characters and how the situation has changed. So effective endings should satisfy the readers. So in summary, I'm just going to do a quick wrap up of what we've talked about so far. Short stories usually only have a few characters. It's a pretty simple subject and it usually takes place over a short period of time. Dialogue and action can help move the story forward. There's usually one point of view, and you want to have a fast-paced, reader-grabbing beginning, followed by a middle that doesn't ramble but directs it towards the end, and then an ending that completes the story and provides understanding and satisfaction. And with our characters and with our story, like most stories, we want a plot that gives us an insight into the human condition. So when you're writing a short story, you want to think about, this is just a short brainstorming activity that can help as a writing process or a writing warm-up. So I want you to think about 3 things. The character of a short story that you would like to write, a crazy plot point, and a fun piece of dialogue that you think would go great with your story. For example, I have here a character, a stubborn blacksmith who is charged with creating a sword that will defeat the dragon that's plaguing the kingdom. Crazy plot point, a dragon. A piece of dialogue would be, mate, is that a dragon? I know a guy. And kind of that's just a short piece of dialogue that can help start the story. And that would lead into the blacksmith being introduced. So thank you so much for watching. That's how you can write a short story. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. And I hope you guys all have a nice week. Bye!